Hi, everybody. My name is Edgar Wong Chen. I just wanted to say thank you so much for inviting me to speak at what is supposed to be a revitalized version of Five Pan. I'm super excited that all of you are meeting and that we have this opportunity to meet. I apologize I can't be there in person, but I'm hoping to kind of share some of my knowledge, tell you a little bit about myself, and to kind of explain the history and the origins of Five Pan. But before I can do that, I think you have to know a little bit about like my background, where I came from, and also what happened in to Five Pan and the creation of Five Pan in the 2000s. So first off, again, my name is Edgar, and both my parents immigrated to the United States in the 1970s. They came out to Davis, California, which is where I was born and raised. They both came from Hong Kong. And so my father was very lucky to come over. He worked as a university researcher. And then my mother became a medical science librarian, both at UC Davis. And so I grew up there, very much was lucky to be surrounded by a lot of amazing culture. And when I first went to UC Davis, yes, I was one of those students that grew up in Davis and then went to UC Davis. Um, it was a very unique opportunity for me because I got an early start with being involved with Asian American culture, activism. I was quickly wrapped into some student affairs involvement, putting on an Asian Pacific Culture Week, as well as we already had an API leadership conference, which happened every year. And that was really kind of where my activism kind of took off. And that's why I'm very excited that all of you are doing this because these types of events are so crucial to kind of bringing up new leadership. While I was at UC Davis, one of the things that we were able to start was a very large coalition of activist groups called the Progressive Student Coalition. And through that, we ended up taking over the Associated Student Body, the student government. It took about 2 to 3 years. But we also just became a very prominent organization on the campus. We took over many of the most prominent organizations, as well as a lot of our students took over a lot of the leadership positions on campus. And UC Davis isn't a small school, it's a pretty big campus with a lot of students. And even at that time, there was only an Asian American Studies minor. So while we were there, we fought for what was a 7 year battle to pass the Asian American Studies major, as well as to fight for departmental status. And so I actually stayed an extra year at UC Davis so that I could finish with a bunch of my activist friends. To be able to finish with the actual Asian American Studies major. So I'm the very first graduating class for UC Davis for what we call the ASA major. While I was at Davis, though, what was really interesting was that there was a lot of activism at that time. I was one of the founders of the USAS chapter, United Students Against Sweatshops, and that really kind of brought to me my deep desire to work on international human rights, labor rights, fighting against sweatshops around the world. And it actually ended up becoming one of the biggest reasons why I ended up coming out to the five colleges. But one of the big things that we did was because we had taken over ASUCD, the student government, we networked with all the other UC campuses. But at the end of my last year there, we hosted a leadership conference really targeting first and second year students to kind of train them and make them become the next generation of activists. And so that's why I'm really excited that this is all being revitalized. So fast forward a little bit in my education, and I ended up deciding to go to UMass to attend the Labor Center there, which at that time was all independent. Now it's folded into sociology. And what I realized was that, I could actually work as a graduate student and also become involved with students. And so I applied for an assistantship, which allowed me to work at UMass's UALRC, the United Asia Learning Resource Center. And that was kind of my test of like, okay, what's activism like in the API community in the West Coast versus the East Coast? And when I got to the East Coast, I was like, where are all the activists? And so it was hard because UMass was a huge campus. And, I only knew a little bit about the other four colleges, not that much. But what was really interesting was I went and attended the 5 college consortium, which also hosts the APA studies program. Now, at this time, I was one of the graduate student assistants at the UALRC. And so I was meeting with undergrads all the time, and I met with some of the activists there. But one of the biggest complaints they had was that they didn't know where any of the other activists were. And so it was hard for them to be able to find each other. And so what we wanted to do was try to create a space where activists from other campuses could get together, because we didn't think there was even that many. And so we started connecting with professors. We started working and networking with other campuses. And we started connecting just a couple key activists, mainly from Smith, some from Amherst College, and from UMass. And then what we did was we thought, what we need to do is we need to get together and actually just talk to see where everybody is and to see how active everybody is. And so what we ended up doing was we created a leadership conference just to say, hey, we want to just do this and see who shows up. And at first, it was a very small group. And I actually, I dug up some old shirts that I found. This is the first one. And I know that I included some pictures in my presentation that I hope you will be able to share with you all. But I included a bunch of pictures from the old days. Now, you gotta remember, this is when Facebook just started, so this is how long ago this was and how old I am. But it was really cool. We had a student design the back. And, this was the very first conference, and we actually had great turnout. And so from that first year, we were like, okay, what else can we do to kind of get students energized? And I had a background in doing leadership camps and leadership conferences coming from UC Davis and from my nonprofit work. So we decided to take all the students that were involved, and we took them to ICASU. And we went to ICASU at Cornell, and we were able to kind of build momentum. And lo and behold, we started hosting more and more conferences. We hosted 4 total conferences. I don't have the other one, but this was the shirt from 2009. And that's when we designed the 5-pan logo. And look at that. It's from Mount Holyoke. Check it out. In 2008, it was at Smith College. We had a royal blue shirt. And then the final one was at UMass. Here it is. And that was in 2010. And what I'm really most proud about with what the students were able to do during this time was that they kept building. We kept building and building and recruiting and recruiting. And if you can believe it, from the small handful of students that we found, I left the UMass and Massachusetts area and moved back home to California in 2010. And by 2011, the group of 5-pan students were able to win the bid to host ICASU. Now, if any of you have actually been to ICASU, that's a really big deal. You're talking about thousands of students coming to your school. And so I just really wanted to, acknowledge the amount of work that these students put in and the effort they did to go from the different campuses. And you know what? We had fun doing it. I don't know if we have some of the pictures you can see, but we used to host hot pot nights on the different campuses to recruit people and to just kind of talk about what we were doing, as well as just have workshops and dialogue sessions and working with some of the amazing professors on the campuses. At UMass, we had Cian Lei, we had Millian Kang. At Smith, we had Floyd Chung. At Hampshire, we had Kim Chang. We worked with all these individuals, and they were excited because something like this hadn't happened yet. And so, again, I'm really excited that all of you are testing the waters, trying to get this reborn, and know that there's a whole group of alumni out there who are going to be really excited to hear about this and who want to help. I mean, that's what kind of even brought me back to UC Davis, because now I actually teach at UC Davis. I'm a visiting community scholar, and I teach courses in Asian American health, health equity, public health, and it's honestly, my deepest passion is working with students within the AAPI community. And, it's not to say that right now we are in a very tense moment. We've gone through a very tense time of COVID, as well as a huge wave of anti Asian hate. And so your activism is key. I work with a lot of undergraduate students right now, and this post COVID era has really created an environment where organizations have to be reborn. I know a lot of our student orgs on our own campus, they're gone. They left. They fizzled out. And so it's up to students like you to rebuild and to make really strong foundations so that these types of organizations and these types of issues and causes can continually be fought for. And that's why it's just so important. And I'm so proud of all of you for even starting this. So I'm always going to be available if any of you want help, need advice. I want to introduce you to other alumni who are still in the area, who would love to help you out. So I'm so glad I could speak at your conference. I know that your theme is community transformation, and I'm just so excited to see how you all transform the Five College environment. And you know what? Thank you for restarting Five Pan. I'm so proud of all of you, and I am going to be there with you. So thank you for having me be your guest speaker, and I hope to meet all of you in person soon. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.